Good evening. I'm excited to welcome you to this evening's concert brought to you by the Idaho State Civic Symphony. I'm Jordan Herget, President and CEO of Portneuf Medical Center. As an advocate for the arts in our communities, Portneuf is proud to once again be the season sponsor of the Symphony. Together we advocate and look to a future filled with music and the arts. Enjoy the concert.
Welcome to tonight's virtual concert with the Idaho State Civic Symphony. I'm Julie Sorensen, the Artistic Director and Conductor for the ISCS, and I invite you to sit back and enjoy tonight's performance. We begin our journey into the styles and forms of the classical era, which is roughly considered to be between the years of 1750 and 1820, with a name that has become synonymous with classical music. Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart first composed the Adagio and Fugue in C minor in December of 1783 for 2 pianos. He then rearranged the piece for strings with an introductory Adagio in June of 1788. It is in this same summer that Mozart also composed his final 3 symphonies. The opening Adagio alternates a double-dotted rhythm reminiscent of the French overture with a lyrical theme, and is then followed by a strongly rhythmic and contrasting fugue. During his studies of counterpoint, Mozart found himself influenced by the earlier Baroque fugues of Bach, and in his compositional style proved that both Baroque and the Rococo compositional styles could coexist together in the classical era. Please enjoy this performance of the Adagio and Fugue in C minor by Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. We continue our journey into the classical era with a performance of the second movement from the String Quartet in C major, Opus 76, number 3, or better known as the Emperor's String Quartet by Joseph Haydn. Haydn was one of the most important figures in the development of the classical style as he established the forms for the string quartet as well as the symphony. In 1797, Haydn received a commission to compose a set of 6 string quartets, a genre he invented, from Count Joseph Georg Erdödy. This is Haydn's last complete set of string quartets. The second movement of Haydn's Emperor String Quartet is in the form of a theme and variations, with this particular movement having a set of 4 variations on his anthem, God Save Emperor Francis, which he had composed earlier in his time. It became so popular that over the years it was adopted as the Austrian national anthem in 1847 and by Germany shortly thereafter, and remains so to this day. We hope you enjoy our performance of this beloved string quartet. We conclude this evening's performance with the Septet in E-flat, which was composed in 1799 by another well-known composer of the era, Ludwig van Beethoven. This evening's performance features 7 of the Idaho State Civic Symphony's principal players, with Dr. Hyeri Choi on violin, Sandi Kenney on viola, Dr. Eleanor Cox on cello, Donald Colby on bass, Dr. Shandra Helman on clarinet, Dillin Diggie on bassoon, and Michael Helman on French horn. Tonight's performance is in honor of our dear friend and colleague, Dr. George Adams, who passed away suddenly this past summer. I had the opportunity to sit down with some of the members of the septet and ask them what this piece means to them. First, we'll begin with talking with our concertmaster, Dr. Hyeri Choi. Hyeri, thank you so much for joining us. We're so excited for the work that you've done on the Beethoven. Can you tell us a little bit about what your favorite thing about working on the Beethoven septet has been?
Yes. First of all, I really want to thank you for Idaho State Civic Symphony for letting us to have this music for tonight. The most enjoyable things for this piece, for me, to have the chance to play with all the principal close this distance. So always when I play in this symphony, I always sitting here, but all other players far away from me. But this time I really have a great chance to working with them close enough. Still we're in distance, but still to me it's close. So that's the most important part. And the great music by Beethoven, this is his early work. Recently not many people playing this, but I'm really happy to share this music with you tonight. So yeah, that's it.
Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing that. And Sandi Kenney, our principal violist this evening, thank you so much for your wonderful work on the Beethoven. We're very much looking forward to hearing that work tonight. Can you tell us how long you've played the viola, and do you play any other instruments as well?
I played the viola professionally for about 20 years now. I actually started playing viola consistently with Dr. Adams in the Idaho Falls Symphony. I played viola in Idaho Falls, and I played violin down here in Pocatello, and neither orchestra knew I played the other instrument, which worked out perfectly for me. I had a great opportunity to play viola consistently for them, and then I started playing viola principally down here just because we needed more violas. So I play violin and viola principally, and then I also play a little bit of cello and bass just because I'm comfortable teaching those. I used to be a good pianist. I would not say that anymore, but it's been a wonderful playing this Beethoven.
Well, we've really enjoyed having you as our principal violist. You add so much to the symphony in so many ways. We now turn our attention to Dr. Eleanor Cox, our principal cellist. Dr. Cox, can you please tell us what it's like to play in a small group like this, and who do you look to for entrances and for tempos?
Well, it's incredible to play in a group like this. I think every classical musician would tell you that there's something really spectacular about chamber music. Who do I look to? There are some sort of principal players even within a chamber group. In this case, it's our violinist and our clarinetist, so often they're leading. In slow movements, whoever has the moving notes kind of leads the tempo. So that's the thing about chamber music that's so great. We all have responsibilities.
That is true. It is a lot of responsibility to be playing in a chamber group since there's only one per part and you are responsible for it. Thank you so much for that insight. And now we turn to our principal bassist, Donald Colby. Can you tell us how long you've been with the Idaho State Civic Symphony? And if you could maybe shed a little light on the Beethoven septet itself.
Certainly, delighted to. I've been with the symphony since the 08-09 season, a year after my wife and I moved here from Illinois to be on the ISU staff, and fell in love with the symphony then and am crazy about it now. This septet means a great deal to me. In the 50 years I've played the bass, I've played all 9 of Beethoven's symphonies, but never been able to play the septet. And it has always meant a great deal to me because there was a fellow by the name of Domenico Carlo Maria Dragonetti, who was introduced to Beethoven in 1799 in Vienna by another fella, very, well, most people knew him a little bit, Haydn. Haydn introduced the two. The two absolutely were crazy about each other's musicianship right away. And in typical fashion, they decided to have a jam session out in the market. So they had a pianoforte carried out into the marketplace where they performed Beethoven's Piano Sonata in number 5, Beethoven playing the piano, Dragonetti playing the bass. It's a cello sonata, so Beethoven was most impressed with what he heard. From that seed in 1799, Beethoven began to write this septet. And he innovated a number of things into the septet that had not been present before. For instance, previously you had 2 clarinets, you had 2 horns, you doubled instruments. In this septet, he experimented. He had 1 clarinet, 1 bassoon, 1 horn. He didn't use the typical group of strings. He added the string bass. So it was an innovation on his part, which he worked on for another 2 years and then introduced it to the public, and the public just loved it 2 years later. So this for me is really a joy, and I thank Dr. Choi for putting all of this together and allowing us to perform for you.
So we now turn to our principal French horn, Michael Helman, who is also our personnel manager here at the Idaho State Civic Symphony. And Michael, we've had the opportunity to play together in a quintet together. Can you tell our patrons why you chose the French horn?
It's a story I tell often as I work with a lot of young musicians as well as the whole spectrum, but Star Wars. It goes all the way back to the 4th grade when they came around with the cart of instruments and they say, well, what do you want to play? And then they hold up a trumpet, they hold up a trombone, a clarinet, and a flute, and then they held up a picture of the French horn. They didn't have a horn. And they pushed play on a cassette, and it played the Star Wars Force theme. And I was like, that's my thing. And they're like, oh, no, this is too hard. Try this instrument. And I'm like, nope, I'm not interested. And luckily, I had the parental backup. And they said, well, let's see if he really wants to do this. Let's see if he can. And they took me to a colleague that taught at the local university in Georgia. And they sat me down and had me buzz a few notes, match pitch. And they're like, he can do it. It's back when you could smoke in your office. So I remember the very vivid smell. And so I've been playing horn ever since. And I was the only horn in most of my ensembles until I got to high school because nobody was confident. I, however, start horn players from the very beginning because I don't want anyone else to have to go through that same experience. Once you find your musical voice, that should be what you get to express yourself with. So that's why I chose the horn. It goes all the way back to John Williams, and I believe Frank Lloyd was the horn soloist of the recording I heard back then.
Fantastic. That's amazing. Thank you so much. And now we move to Dillin Diggie, who is our bassoonist for the evening. Dillin, thank you so much for your work on this piece. Can you tell us a little bit about the bassoon? Why did you choose the bassoon? It's such an interesting instrument.
Yes, it is. So what happened was that in middle school bands, they needed a bassoon player. I, at the time, did not know what a bassoon was. So just out of a whim, I decided I'll try it, see what'll happen. So then I got lessons set up, and then I went to my first lesson, played a few notes on the instrument, and I've loved it ever since.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing that story with us. And now we turn to Dr. Shandra Helman, who was our principal clarinetist. Dr. Helman, can you tell us some of the challenges that had to be overcome in playing with this piece, maybe even specifically as a wind player?
Absolutely. One aspect that was very difficult was the physical distance between us. Normally it's less than half this distance when you are performing in an ensemble like this, a very intimate setting. As far as being a wind player is concerned, masks while we play are essential right now, and so I'm lucky enough to own a sewing machine. Thanks, Mom. And this mask, then I'll do this to show you the secret inside, where you can actually see my full smile. It allows me to play and breathe as I need to function properly on my instrument, but while the flap is hanging down, also keeps my colleagues safe. Other instrumental modifications that we need to make is this really lovely bell cover made out of a pair of old nylon stockings that I found at home. Mr. Helman is also using some on the end of his bell, as well as Mr. Diggie, and just keeping water droplets off of the stage and out of the air. Otherwise, it hasn't been a challenge at all.
Thank you so much. It is definitely unique times in which we're trying to perform and to bring music to our community. As each of you know, this is a piece that is being performed in honor of our dear friend and colleague, Dr. George Adams. Do any of you have a memory or a performance memory that you would like to share briefly with our patrons of Dr. Adams?
I do. I sat by George for many years. And at the end of every concert, he would turn to me and say, "Well, that's another great one in the bag, Helman." And I'll forever hear that after every concert I play.
Thank you for sharing that.
I have one. Dr. Adams always was huge supporter for strings, especially. He always gave me some advice after the symphony or our students play something. He always there, always listen them, how they improve, always share with me. Also, I remember he really wanted to play this with us. And now I'm happy Dillin can play with us, but I still remember how he was excited to be part of this septet. So hopefully he's listening right now for our performance. I keep remembering what he gave me the great advices. Thank you.
Thank you. This is the last piece that Dr. Adams was practicing and performing, and so again, thank you all for honoring his memory and bringing this beautiful memory to our community and to this stage, and thank you for all that you do for the symphony as well. Thank you very much. thank you for joining us for this evening's performance. I'm Julie Sorensen, and on behalf of the Idaho State Civic Symphony, we look forward to seeing you at our next concert. Thank you.